So the white paper that's brought us all here today has shown that personalisation matters to people. 67% of those who responded to our survey agreed that it's important for subscription and products to be personalised to the individual wants and needs. That's become really apparent from the panel discussion as well, that all of the brands that we had are personalising their products to really kind of nail that relevancy and keep the relationship going with brands. And this has a direct link to business success. So when marketers were surveyed what the effects they were seeing in their business from using personalisation, they cited things such as increased visitor engagement, improved customer experience, increased conversion rates. And if we look at the bottom of the list, we also see makes me and my team look good, which is something as marketers is always useful to have. But with great power comes great responsibility. Our customers are very time poor, and they have more choice than ever before. So they have very high expectations of brands. They expect outstanding customer experience. They desire relevance in the products and services we're offering, and they want personalisation, and that's becoming clearer and clearer. Personalisation is possible throughout the whole engagement framework, from the communications, acquiring new customers based on kind of simple demographic information, all the way through into the products that we're offering. From the charity regular giving model, where you can select how much you want to give and how frequently, to the health club, where you can pick a single or multi-club membership or off-peak or peak, all the way through to the beauty boxes, where you say what your preferences are, what your skin type's like, and what kind of food you like for HelloFresh. And then there's the mass of it all, the streaming market, where the likes of Netflix are recommending what we want to watch based on what we've watched and keeping us engaged. So why do marketers struggle with personalisation? So personalisation has a perception of being creepy. There's a really great theory from a Japanese roboticist that says that the more human-like a machine becomes, the more it puts people at unease. They call this the uncanny valley because it becomes, as things become more human, people get more and more comfortable, and then it gets to a certain tipping point, and then you drop into the uncanny valley where people are really uncomfortable. Another issue that's keeping marketers awake at night is that they want to personalize their customer experience, but they're worried about violating user privacy. This is particularly apparent in the EU, where GDPR is in place, and we have to be careful that we're not violating any of these rules, and that we're keeping people's data where it needs to be. Another reason often cited is lack of dedicated resource within businesses. This is often a secondary role of a job. Personalisation is kind of creeping up organisational priorities, that it's becoming more and more important in businesses, but often there's not that dedicated resource being put into getting that experience right. And this is something we will see change. The next crucial point is that 55% of marketers don't feel that they have the data and insights that they need to drive personalisation. And sticking with that data point, infrastructure considerations are key. Data is being stored across too many different systems that don't talk to each other. When marketers were surveyed how many different systems they're storing their data, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers came up as the most frequent ones, and it did go all the way up to kind of 20 plus systems. This may be as simple as storing your email data in MailChimp, storing your customer addresses in a different database, and then the transactional data being stored in separate databases as well. So it's really crucial that you understand the flow of information throughout your organization, and that you're able to free data from departmental silos or closed solutions to take full advantage of this. So we can learn from our customer churn. So with a subscription model, we already have the buy-in from customers for a regular purchase. So the battle is to try not to lose them rather than to gain customers. We all know as marketers that acquisition is very costly, and retention is far cheaper than acquisition. with this churn data, there's a lot of things that we can learn. So we can look, when do people leave? Heading back to Rick's 19 months and 2 weeks as the average time. What was their behavior before they left? So did they stop using the product? Did they stop opening our emails? Have we asked them a survey when they left? Why did they leave? So we can learn more from this data. Another key thing we can learn from churn is which users are most likely to resubscribe. So if we monitor those who have left us and then later come back, we can look for predictive variables within the data to see what causes that to happen, to really try to understand the situation, to find out which users we can potentially get back from our lapsed pool. So there are three main approaches to personalization. There's rule-based targeting to segments. So this is where you split your customer database or your audience into different segments based on a rule that could be something as simple as the location that they're in, and then you deliver a message to them based on that rule. Next, there are triggered messages or notifications. So that's the customer does a particular action. They've responded to a particular survey that you've sent out, they've been on a particular page on your website, and you give them a specific message because they've done that. And then it comes down to the final one, which is the least used, machine learning or algorithmic one-to-one, which is really true individual level personalization. We need to make sure that we remember all the media channels that are available to us. The majority of marketers are using personalization via email, but we need to remember that there are plenty of other media channels out there, many of which have personalization options available to us. It's really important that we have a firm grip of our customer databases if we're going to venture on this journey of personalization. Using CRM database analysis and RFV modeling, we can identify high-value segments that sit within our data. What an RFV model does, which is the grid that's shown on the right just there, is it looks at the individual customer rather than the business objective. So across the top axis, we have how recently have they made a purchase. Then we have the frequency along the y-axis, so how many transactions have they made. And then we fill in the blocks with the value that this adds. It might be how much money they've spent or how many customers there are, so actual volumes. And what this does is identifies sections of our database that we can target. So it might be that 2 years ago we had a really valuable section of the database that we've since lost. And we can identify this pocket of data to encourage repeat purchase and learn from this the key points for customer churn. Once we've got a grip on our data, it's likely that there are holes that would benefit from being plugged in. This is where a system like Mosaic from Experian can help us. So many of you will be familiar with the Mosaic system, but basically what it does is it splits the UK population into 15 groups and then 66 types, which are smaller versions of the groups. Experian then profiles this information at an individual or a household level. We can then look at how our customer sample compares to the base of the UK population and which groups over-index against this. Using the tools from Experian, we can then pull out extra information to supplement your data, such as demographic information like age, geographic information, so where they live, and yes, supplement this with things like household income and home ownership status and media preferences, all of this which can feed into the channels that you're using to target. So I just wanted to take this point to highlight some really great examples of personalization that are out there. Netflix has a really good example of using data for personalization. They split their audience into 2,000 different groups that they use for recommendations. They call these taste groups, and they define what you get recommended as your next product, which is a really good use of data in personalization. Spotify has the Discover Weekly playlist, where they introduce you to new music based on the individual things that you've been listening to, which is a purely personalized playlist of what you could listen to keep engaged and keep relevant in the platform. And then another example of personalization, although not on a subscription product, is UNICEF Legacy, which is a great example of using other channels as it uses social media and personalization in that. No video, okay. There's a video on our website that shows how great that was. So in summary, personalization is the future. There's absolutely no escaping it. We can see it's really increasing in priorities within organizations, and if you're not doing it, you really need to get going. Success in the subscription model stems from the proper use of data and personalization. And there are many different tools that you can use to kind of delve deep into your data to understand what's going on in your database and with your customers. And so you can truly get to know your customers and provide a service that adds value to their lives and makes everything easier. That's it from me. Thank you.